the side hustle mentality.
Not a lot of people achieve that.
Everyone's got this idea of it'll grow itself and run the business itself.
What's the worst case here? The business doesn't work out and I can't service my mortgage.
How are you going to do that if you're only giving your side hustle about 20 to 30% of your time?
Now you want to take it to 100 grand revenue, but the expenses to get there also grow.
You're not strapped to the floor unless you've put the bricks there yourself.
Sanico.
You missed the software. Today we're talking about... So I wanted to talk today about the side hustle mentality.
Yes.
Now, side hustle is obviously a very trendy term that people are talking about nowadays, and there's nothing wrong with a side hustle. I mean, the buzzword kills me a little bit. I mean, it's just, working in your spare time. But there's nothing wrong with the idea of trying to create a separate source of income through another means of your main work. But I want to talk about a few of the, derivation mentalities that come from it. There's a lot of thoughts that come from it, and there's some things that can limit a person wanting to grow bigger into that side hustle that they weren't able to. Sometimes I get told by people, just to start it off, that, this was a side hustle, I'm making maybe 20 grand from it a year, and they've got their main job, maybe they're making, base 70, and they're trying to get to that 100 grand mark. Let's just sit with whole figures. But when I'm actually talking with them, they say, but I'd love to quit my job, and I'd love to take this side hustle full time. And that's not really a side hustle anymore. That's now a dream.
The main hustle.
That's the dream for a main hustle and the main goal. And then it's worth considering what's making them not get to that point. I mean, have you seen this yourself?
Yeah. So I've had a friend of mine, they said, I want to go full into my business. So that it was the side hustle or micro business, whatever you want to call it. And they wanted to quit, but they said, before I quit, I need to make 100 grand to go into that business.
From the side hustle.
From the side hustle is paying more than the main hustle. And you're like, I've reached the point of
I can let go.
Prosperity. I must quit main
self-actualization. You're like, I can do it now.
Yeah, hallelujah, we've done it.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually really rare, to be able to make your side hustle outweigh what you're earning in your main job. That's like a lottery ticket. Not a lot of people achieve that. Like I've heard of people achieve it, but it's very a rare ramp up to a small business. So, and that's what it is at the end of the day. It's almost a micro business turning into a small business.
When you're doing these side hustles and then you're doing your main job, and it really depends what your main job is. I mean, maybe you're packing shelves at Woolworths, or I was working at Officeworks for many years doing night shifts. Not night shifts, sorry. It was like a 6 till 10 shift, after the main 9 till 5 hours. And I was able to get in, some good pay 5 days a week on a sort of part-time basis. But at the same time, you have to look at the opportunity cost of it. I mean, in economics, they say the opportunity cost is really what you're foregoing with the time that you're giving to something. What else could have you been doing? There's maybe a tangible number you could put to that. You could have been, I could have been working elsewhere for that time and maybe making more money, or I could have been sitting down for 4 hours a day thinking about what ideas I could implement for my side hustle. So we talk about side hustles and we talk about main goals, and then we talk about these side hustles wanting to overtake the main goals. Well, everyone has limited resources. That's 24 hours in a day, and we're sleeping for about 7.5 of them, unless you're one of these life coaches online that says you only need 5 hours, and that's not sustainable. So
5 hours, 3 hours.
You're 3 hours. One of them I used to listen to said, daylight savings, just don't change your clocks.
Don't even blink. Don't close your eyes.
And so, that's all good and well. Maybe you can pull some, 3-hour sleeps every now and then. But for the most part, this job that we're in, you and I, the business that we're running, and it's full time, I've found that you have to schedule yourself to get enough sleep or rest or, downtime
For the long term.
for the long term, because this is not a startup mentality. Maybe some people want to treat it like it's a short-term startup mentality, but if you're running a race, you can't be sprinting the whole time. I mean, even the amazing people that are running 10,000 meters in the Olympics, they still have more to run. Even though they're running super fast for the 10,000 meters, they still have a sprint to give at the end, and they can't do that.
Yeah, they can't go the full sprint,
you can't go
100 meter
100%.
sprint, 100 meters.
They're going about 80%, which is still incredible because they're Olympians, but you can't go 100% the whole time and gas yourself.
Yeah, and we're talking like your full sprint.
That's right. And something with that 10,000 meters is there's a finish line. They know when the finish line is. And in life, you don't know when the finish line is. I don't know when it is. I mean, I can try and set, I want to retire at 35 years old, but that might not come to fruition. And I'm not even saying that's my goal, but I could set a self-finish line, but we live until we die. When is that finish line? I don't know. I'm not in control of that. So, it's easy for them to conserve their energy and then sprint at a certain part. But we have to figure out how to use our resources without gassing ourselves or burning out, they call it.
So how is this relating to your previous point of...
Well, because I see people when they're doing their side hustles and they're doing the main job, and that's all good and well, but you're hitting your 100% of resources that you have to give, and also potentially not even getting enough sleep. So I'm relating this because you're saying you want, and this is for specifically people saying they want to get their side hustle as their full-time gig. How are you going to do that if you're only giving your side hustle about 20 to 30% of your time?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so your resources are limited was the whole point of what I was saying there. Sorry for the tangent. But you need to figure out how to rejig your resources to be able to let that side hustle grow even more. Everyone's got this idea of it'll grow itself and run the business itself. And I think that's a dangerous mentality.
Yeah, I mean, businesses don't run themselves. I mean, you could have a manager that runs it, but I've seen many large companies buy startups or small businesses and pretty much just run them into the ground. They don't have that same finesse as the original owner. But that's another topic of discussion. I mean, the mentality that we're talking about is you've got a successful side hustle, micro business, and you want to take it to the next level. Your resources are 100% exhausted. You have no more hours in the day. So it's either you quit your main hustle, but that is very difficult for a lot of people. And I understand that because if you have bills to pay and you have mortgage, most young Australians have mortgages, and I think a lot of people around the world have mortgages these days. How are you going to service everything? It's a bit of a risk. And that's why business is a risk, like a bit riskier than maybe just being in a stable job. Maybe the illusion of a stable job, because you can get made redundant at a job too.
Yeah.
And your job seems more secure than you're thinking it is. But again, another topic of discussion. When you have that mentality that, okay, I can't go full-time into my business, I don't really see a way that you're going to grow it. I mean, you can keep trying to squeeze the lemon of 100% capacity, like you said, and then be completely defeated when you reach that point where you're sprinting for 2 years and then you just collapse and just quit.
Yeah. And it's not the first time I've seen that. I've seen several business owners that we've come across that talk to us and they say they went, what they were considering 150%, which is always a laugh because 100% is 100%. But they were just sprinting the whole time, got to a point, gassed themselves out. And even though they made a decent bit of money, they had a lot more, mental issues they had to work through and situations where they had to speak to someone about it because they were burnt out and they had to sort of hit a reset button, which is scary. But on the side hustle mentality, I want to say, as an example, I know some people where they're working maybe 3 jobs, Okay, so you've got your main job and then you've got your side hustle and then you've got another thing that you're doing for cashies on the side. You're trying to make a bit of extra cash, maybe even sometimes a 4th thing. And that's just more time. I mean, you're looking for the difference between instant gratification and delayed gratification. And in this scenario, the delayed gratification would be the time that you're putting into maybe your side hustle that's not giving you that instant cash, but will assist its growth, like watering the plant. I mean, if you've got a watering can and it's only filled up to a certain level and you've got a certain amount of plants in your room, 3 plants for your 3 jobs, you're going to run out of water. How big can those plants grow? What are you going to have, 100 little succulents or something? You're limited on water that you can give to these plants.
Yeah, and I want to step back a second, because when you were saying it, I thought of something that I heard from the lady who started Boost Juice.
Oh, yeah.
I forget her name.
I forget her name, to be honest.
Jan.
It's with a J.
It sounds familiar.
Janine. It's Janine.
Yeah, Janine. She said, I think it was on a Shark Tank or something, someone said, oh, okay, I'm running this business. I got this idea. Fantastic. And she said, is this your full-time thing? And he said, oh, I have multiple businesses. And she's like, I'm out. She won't invest in something when someone won't risk and say, this is my main thing.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I relate to that. I understand it, because she understands that if that's not someone's full-time thing, they might say, oh, it's okay, that thing didn't work out, but my other business is doing really well. Oh, well.
That person's hedging their bets.
Yeah, that's right. But, and so what I'm relating to that is the focus. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on your main job? That's great. But if you want to take your micro business side hustle, or even it's almost a complete small business, to the next level, you have to have a next level mentality. You have to potentially quit that job, lower hours, find something that's casual, and build up to doing your side hustle as the main hustle, or just a small business.
One of the other sort of tangents or points I want to go off on trying to grow that side hustle, because maybe someone's like, okay, well, I'm putting more of my time. I gave up 3 of the things that I was doing, and it's just my main job and my side hustle now. How can I get that side hustle to get bigger? I mean, one of the things that I wanted to say was, let's just say your side hustle is making you 20 grand, and you're pocketing 20 grand. Maybe revenue is 30. I don't know.
You like this 20 grand figure? You said.
Well, it's anyway, an easy number to roll with.
I gotcha.
We want to round up to just 100 for the sake of it. So, you're pulling in 20 grand, and do you need to pocket that 20 grand for yourself? How much of that can you just put straight back into the business of that side hustle? So if you're pocketing that yourself, suddenly you're also taking away more water from the can that, was added from the business it generated itself. So are you trying to afford a certain car and you need that 20 grand? Okay, if you need it for your life and you have ridiculous overheads because you have a certain amount of children and you need to service certain overheads. But if you're doing it for luxury things, and we touched on it in the first episode, your side hustle is generating an income or a revenue stream that can feed right back into itself. I think even with stocks, you can reinvest, dividends people talk about, and you're not pocketing right away. Again, there's that delayed gratification. And that's one way I think you can get your side hustle to grow beyond what your main job is, because you're at least allowing it to feed itself.
And can I just step back even further? I like stepping back.
Yeah, step back.
If you have this micro business, this side hustle, you can just keep it as that.
Sure.
We're talking about the mentality of taking it to the small business, your main job.
Main job, yeah.
Because if you're happy with the micro business, the side hustle, then go for it. Pocket that 20 grand. That is, like, if that's what you're doing it for, put it right in your pockets. I want to mention that, because at the end of the day, you don't have to make everything big. We touched on it again on episode 1. So I was talking to you before we started filming, because we're just talking about what we wanted to talk about today. And I mentioned Peter Pan.
Yeah.
I picture a lot of these people that when you're running this micro business, and say you then take it to the next level, and you're a small business.
Yeah.
What I found is you need to grow. Like, you need to the expenses are different. Everything scales. So for example, say you're wanting a good website. Maybe you did a cheap website that costs $200 at the start. Whatever, that's fine. You got to start. Great.
You maybe
something's up.
You did it yourself, maybe.
That's right. But now you're like, okay, how do I get to that next level? Then you start getting quotes. Oh, it will cost 20 grand. Oh, it'll cost 50 grand, 100 grand. And you're like, oh, what? That's too much. And yes, it's too much. But if you're wanting to get to that next level, you probably have to spend a bit more. And it's not just a website. I'm saying like for advertisement or for hiring an employee. Heck, even recruitment.
Yeah.
You want to run all the ads yourself and find someone. It takes your time. You're going to pay for seek.com.au is the biggest platform in Australia. You need to pay for that. That's the biggest one. LinkedIn. So you're spending minimum $1,000 on just finding someone. Then you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, let's get a recruiter to do it. That costs 10 grand or even more. Sure. So what I'm trying to say is costs go up, or to scale, you're working with 20 grand revenue. Now you want to take it to 100 grand revenue, but the expenses to get there also grow. So if you keep the Peter Pan mentality, like, I don't want to grow. I don't want to get bigger, then you keep it there. But if you don't want to be Peter Pan, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is they are Peter Pan, but don't realize they are Peter Pan. They're wanting to keep that small mentality, keep young as Peter Pan, but they want to be big, but you want to spend little. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I agree with you if you're wanting to keep it small and you want to be Peter Pan, then good luck to you. Fantastic. It's great that you've actually even doing something in your spare time that makes you some sort of passive income stream. That's awesome. Like, it really is. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, the original conversation piece was that the people who were wanting to take it to that next level, and I agree with you that not only do the expenses increase, but it's the obstacles become different. And the way you have to look at solving those obstacles become different too, because you can't just think, okay, I'm going to deal with it. You may have to bring someone else on to help deal with it. You may have to learn to delegate tasks better. You may have to invest in not just a new website or marketing materials, but invest in software around you that actually helps you do things better, such as maybe you were invoicing people manually and you now need a better
Word
accounting
document.
system. Someone else I spoke to the other day, they were doing tradesman work and they were manually doing invoices, and now they use ServiceMate. Again, no commissions from this place, but it was a place that allowed them to do a bit more project management tools.
Sure.
We use project management tools, and we've learned to invest in further things for the bigger projects that we've had to take on, because otherwise we're wasting our own time. It was all good and well when they were small clients, and this is specific to a service-based business right now, but when they were small clients, our processes were fine. But then suddenly the big clients broke our processes. So we had to think differently from this small sort of mentality to a bigger mentality. And how can we address all ranges of people, large and small? And so that's investing not only in, different marketing materials like you're saying, but software around you.
So what is the encompassing point here? What are you trying to say? Because you started the conversation. What are you exactly trying to get at here?
I just wanted to talk about the idea that I think some people limit themselves, and these are specifically the people who want to grow their side hustles into their main gigs. And I think that they keep their feet on the floor and don't realize how to grow because they're doing this juggling act. They're balancing everything. And I get it. We've done it. We've been editing our own videos too, and now we actually invest in someone to do the editing for us. But it took a bit to understand, the different mentalities that we need to have to grow the business to its next level. And if you want to grow your business to its next level and you don't want to do this main gig anymore that you're doing, you don't like it, maybe it's average to you, and this other thing is passion.
Your passion, creative outlet, everything.
You wake up and you're like, I'm excited.
Let's go.
You get on your phone and you're looking things up for that side hustle.
Warren Buffett says it's skip to work. You're that's the goal. Like, you want to be so happy to go to work because it's the most of your time.
Well, people said if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I slightly disagree because you still get tired. But I understand the sentiment because, you are so passionate about what you're doing. You could do it for a much longer time than something you just can't stand. So if you're, I just wanted to discuss today, people limit themselves, and there's ways to overcome that.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask. What is kind of the cures, before we go wrap this up? What are the cures to cure you from the Peter Pan effect, and if you want to take the side hustle to the main hustle?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say there's an immediate cure. The biggest thing that I would say is stepping back, like we've even
looking
done.
in a mirror. I am Peter Pan.
Well, I mean, stepping back and asking, and we said in episode 1, 2, what do you want out of the business? And if it is that you want it full time, or you want to scale it up to at least half of your time, you need to identify how you can do that, and not just continue burning your time in other outlets that aren't helping you at all.
What would you say to the people that rebuttal and go, that's easy for you to say, not everyone is able to start a business and, have a cheap rent, or they've got a lot of dependencies, mortgages and stuff. So I know a lot of people like that. So what would you say to them?
You would have to try and make sure you have a certain amount of money that maybe you can work from it temporarily if you're trying to. That's if you're trying to leave your main job. I still think there is time outside of your main job to dedicate to something else. That's what these market stall holders are doing. They've proven it. So you can do something outside of it. My rebuttal to them is, whether your rents are high or low, I don't want to say go live somewhere else that the rent's lower, but if you have premiums that you can cut temporarily, great. Then you have more to give to yourself. Do you have to drive the absolutely most expensive car? Is your assessing everything in your life, and this gets into sort of budgeting, and I'm not here to be my budget, but there's ways that you can budget things to ensure that maybe you're not spending as much and you're keeping a bit more of the money that you have. And if you have a bit more of the money you have, you can maybe put it towards something of the side hustle to feed it a bit more. The idea is just to give as much water as you can to that side hustle to grow it more. That's all. So in whatever capacity that is, whether it's saving more money to put towards it, whether it's your growth has to be over 5 to 10 years instead of 2 years because you have less time you can put into it, are you putting the right things into it?
And it sounds like that's a very unique question to ask. There's not a cookie cutter method to say everyone should do this, because someone might have a massive mortgage and they're not able to service their loan, and it's too much of a risk because maybe they have a small family or they have school fees, other dependencies. So it really is kind of just reflect on your own business and kind of think, what would it take to do that, and what are the steps necessary? What's the worst case here? The business doesn't work out and I can't service my mortgage.
Yeah.
Can you easily find another job to then start paying again? Or
Sure.
So it sounds like a really unique question to ask yourself on self-reflection.
Well, there's a bunch of different risks, and you have to assess in your own situation, and like you said, on your own overheads, are you willing to take that risk? And if you are willing to take that risk, sure, then the consequences maybe are not so fatal and you can put more time into it. If they are crazy, then maybe you have to abide your time and ensure that you're not spending money stupidly, and then put it aside so you can put it into your side hustle. I think there's always a way, but maybe it'll be more difficult for some than others.
So to wrap up on this, what's your final statement on that?
I think if you're wanting to take it to that bigger step, anyone can do it. It just depends on the amount of resources you have that you can put towards it. And if you have to put 10 years, 20 years towards it, then that's so be it, if you're making the right decisions to do that. The biggest point here is you're not strapped to the floor unless you've put the bricks there yourself. And so you have to identify, how can I remove these bricks, or how can I step to that next level? And I know people can do it. I've seen it. And I've seen people in very tough situations do it and step out of what they're in to put time into what they want to do. And I've seen other people that have the time now deciding to put it into it now. There's always time. There's always a different situation you can get yourself into. So it's up to you on if you want to take it to that next level, and if you're willing to take on the new obstacles that come with it.
Love it. That's a good wrap right there.
All right, excellent.